All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's shiur should be le'ilu nishmas our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka bas Gavriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi, Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dov HaKohen, and b'schos l'refuah shalema bekarov Mishalom ben Sarachel, Miriam Basara, and Yair Yeshia ben Chaya Atara. Today, we are on page 47 in the Ora Vigdor, for those who are following along. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the spiritual benefit that Bitachon has for an individual. And he starts off like this. Trust in Hashem is beneficial to a person in the matter of his spiritual life. That is, in learning Torah. And later on, we're going to speak about the physical benefits that Bitachon has. But in the spiritual benefit, he says, Ki aboteach b'Hashem imhu bal mamon, for if he trusts in Hashem, he is a wealthy man. A person who has full Bitachon is wealthy. He will hurry to use his wealth, this wealth of Bitachon, to fulfill his obligations towards Hashem and his obligations towards people with willing soul and generous spirit. Rav Av says that this means that he's not holding on to his money in secrecy. He's not putting it away just for himself, and when his time comes to leave this world, he leaves it over to someone else after he's worked so hard to collect it, and then it goes to someone else. No. The Baal Bitachon has utilized all his earnings throughout his life to accomplish things for Hashem, to build Torah, to build yeshivas, to build shuls, to give tzedakah, to help people, to start organizations. And when he gives for these charitable purposes to help people and yeshivas, he should know that that itself is a tremendous achievement. In addition to the bitachon that he's acquired for himself, so he really acquires two achievements. One of them, that he's achieved the level of bitachon, that he has full trust in Hashem, and also the fact that he can utilize his money to help continue to build Klal Yisrael. Now suppose a person that has Bitachon, this man with Bitachon, it doesn't have wealth, physical wealth, money. Because of his Bitachon, he will look at the lack of money as one of the benefits that Hashem gives him. Think about this for a second. A person who has money and he has Bitachon, great, it's amazing. So how is he saying over here that a person who has Bitachon but lacks money, he's poor or struggling, how is that a gift from Hashem? He says, because his obligations are now removed from him. And those obligations we're going to talk about in a minute. Obligations in which he is obligated to Hashem and the people because of the money. And now he's free. Rav Av says, a man who has money has responsibilities on his shoulder. If there are causes that have to be supported by money, Hashem gave you the money for a purpose. Hashem gave you the money so you could distribute it to the right places. Now, if you're not distributing it to the right places, you're not doing your job. And so therefore, a person who has full bitachon and doesn't have the funds to assist others in his life, the bracha is there that he doesn't have this obligation, this responsibility, this job, this full-time job to make sure that those funds go to the appropriate places. And the man who has no money benefits by being spared the burden of maintaining and managing it. And now his mind is no longer occupied by all these different things. If you're a wealthy man, generally speaking, if it's something that you're working on, you're busy with that. You have a business that you're working on. You have a career that you're working on. You're constantly very busy with it. And with being busy also comes the tough times or the struggles, the hurdles, the important decisions, the constant meetings that you have to get involved in. And those things take up your time. They take up your day from being able to do Hashem's will. And we see that Rav Av speaks of the Torah advantages of being a Baal Bitachon. Subsequently, he's also going to speak about the physical and material advantages that it's going to bring. But now he's telling us in the service of Hashem, in a person's relationship with Hashem, what an achievement it is to gain the attitude of Bitachon, even though he has money or doesn't have money, the level of Bitachon that you gain is such a huge achievement that he calls it wealth. That is real wealth. And he finishes off, he says, when a person has no Bitachon, he puts all of his efforts into his business because that's his life. That's his future. And he has nothing else but that. But when Hashem sees that a man is trying to gain Bitachon, he helps him liberate his mind, his feelings from the day-to-day grind and assist this person. The same, you can have two identical people with identical businesses, and one of them is working 18-hour days and is constantly stressed out, and the other person who has real Bitachon and trust in Hashem, he's easy. He does his work, he doesn't lack. Doesn't mean be lazy. Rav Av says he warns against that. Others from all warn against that. Having Bitachon is not a way out. Say, I get, whatever, God's got this, I'm going to sit back. No, that's wrong. You still have to do your part, but how you do that, your mindset when you do that, are you scheduling meetings for 18 hours a day because you feel that's what you're going to need to get this business going? Well, no. You work an amount of time that makes sense. You set aside enough time to learn Torah, to daven, and you have other responsibilities. You have a family, you have a wife, you have children. You have other personal obligations that are part of your life, and you need to fulfill those obligations. And having Bitachon, even though you're a big CEO of a Fortune 500 company, it doesn't mean that you don't have to have the time. I actually saw a video recently of a billionaire. This guy was interviewing billionaires. This guy has a home services business. And he said, if you're a billionaire, but you don't have time in the day, you're doing it all wrong. He says in 33 years of being a businessman, he has never, ever worked on a weekend. He said, I work so that I can have time to live my life. Now, this guy was not Jewish, so he lives his life for his family, and he has great core values, family values. We also have those same values, yet we also have obligations towards Hashem. We have values that we have that are Yiddishkeit. And so if we're working all day and all night just because we think we need to make that dollar, really, what's it for? It's not for anything. You're not getting anywhere. But if you work with Bitachon, then, and you work your, 8 hours, 10 hours a day, some days you'll work a little less, some days you make up for it on the week, whatever it is, but you're working with Bitachon in mind. And that's what puts you at ease and gives you that time and the ability to fulfill other things in your life. Really quickly on this week's Parsha. In this week's Parsha, in Parshas Pinchas, we see that when Hashem made Aaron a Kohen and all his descendants, Kohanim, the words that Hashem said were, over there, Aaron's grandson Pinchas was left out because it says over there, Hashem told Aaron and his sons and their sons who will be born will be Kohanim. The word they will be born. Pinchas was already born at the time, and he was not zocheh to be a Kohen at that moment. However, Pinchas doesn't get flustered. He doesn't get upset. Everyone around him, his cousins, his aunts, his uncles, everyone is a Kohen, and he's not. He doesn't get to do the avoda in the Beis HaMikdash or the Mishkan at the time. And here's a beautiful lesson that we learn from Pinchas. Pinchas could have easily looked at this situation and thought, you know what? I think Hashem has it out for me. Why did he single me out? I'm literally in the same bloodline as them, all the rest of them, and I don't get to be a Kohen Gadol, a Kohen. And he could have had countless other negative thoughts, but he refrained from that. He looked away in that. Now, if you look at the story about Pinchas, however, had Pinchas been bitter and resentful about Hashem for excluding him, it would have created a self-sufficient prophecy, and he would have hurt himself in the long run. But what happened? This one act of Hashem not including him as being a Kohen built up a character. We spoke about this the other day, that sometimes in life we have struggles because it builds character. It builds character for something bigger later on. Now, Pinchas later faced an adversary, a Jewish adversary, Zimri ben Suli, who sinned by living with a non-Jewish woman. It says over there. And for that, at that time, Hashem rewarded him to become a Kohen at that time. He said, you're even on a greater level of the rest of them. What does that teach us? It teaches that sometimes, even though we go through pain, we go through struggles, we go through adversity, we can't look at it as if I'm just being punished for something. Sometimes those instances are there to build our character, not just to get back to the same place we were before, but to get ahead. Pinchas got ahead. He became a gadol, a Kohen, but Hashem said you're on a higher level of the rest of them. And sometimes that is what we need to look at. And the exercise that we need to do is that when we go home every single day and we have a hard day, a difficult day, or something in our life just hits us like a bus, we have to think about it. Is it really a punishment, or is it something maybe perhaps later on in life we're going to realize that Hashem has done this to build our character, and that might just be the reason that we get better or grow stronger or bigger from where we were today. Thank you everyone for joining us all here today. Have a wonderful, a beautiful Shabbos, and I love you all.